May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing unto you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Last Wednesday night, the fellowship hall was full for our Wednesday night viewing of Jesus Revolution. It was a feature film that was released this year, and it examines the event that rolled through California and the country in the 1970s. Pastor Chuck was a preacher in a traditional church, and he is trying to figure out how to grow his small congregation, while at the same time juggling these hippies that had popped up everywhere. He was afraid of them. He thought they were trouble. His daughter, Janet, says to him, "Sure, and there's the problem. You're passing judgment on people you know nothing about." And then Janet runs into Lonnie, a hippie preacher, and brings him home, much to Pastor Chuck's dismay. But Pastor Chuck gets to know Lonnie, welcomes him into his church, and a revolution begins. There is a rabbinic teaching method called shiraz, and it means stringing pearls. So the teacher would spin out image after image after image, and wisdom saying after wisdom saying, parable after parable, in a seemingly random way. It was designed to tell the larger truth by focusing on these small details, or to talk about the whole by examining the parts. It was describing a picture by telling a variety of perspectives. And that is exactly what Jesus is doing in today's gospel. And we tend to skip over these passages where Jesus spins this rabbinic teaching because we ask, well, which one is it, Jesus? Is the kingdom like a pearl or a net? Is it like yeast or a treasure in the field? And Jesus responds, yes. Jesus really wants us to see, to really understand. And we can't do that by thinking the way we usually think. And we have to learn to look down our noses and off to the horizon at the same time. You know, like this. You can do that, right? It's kind of difficult, but that is what Jesus is asking us to do. We have to learn to see the ordinary and the spectacular all together. We have to learn to experience the everyday and the once in a lifetime in the same moment. We need to see deeper and trust more completely. We need to value what the world throws away and throw away what the world sees as most valuable. And this is exactly what happens to Pastor Chuck. The world was throwing away the hippies. The world saw them as different and smelly and dirty. The world didn't want to get to know the hippies to find out that they were searching for the same thing, for God. And they were all more alike than different. As Pastor Chuck tries to understand what Lonnie is telling him about Lonnie's people, Lonnie says, my people are desperate. Desperation, man. There's power in that word. Are your people desperate? Are we desperate? Are we desperate for Jesus? Or are we desperate for being comfortable? The kingdom asks us to turn everything upside down, to stretch and reach and get outside of ourselves long enough to really see the wonder of the universe in a tiny mustard seed. But most importantly, at least it seems to me to be most important, we are supposed to do it with joy. The elders in Pastor Chuck's church told him that by inviting those people, that the contributing members of the church were uncomfortable and would leave. Those hippies were dirty and ruining the carpet with their bare feet. And they certainly didn't fit into what was expected of a Christian. And this was going to cause trouble. It's easy to get frustrated when the carpet in the church gets dirty, isn't it? We are inclined to blame others, who you are sure did not take the same care that you would have taken. But it is precisely these inclinations that we need to set aside. Instead, we must embrace the challenge, the search, the discovery with joy and passion, like Pastor Chuck. He responded to that threat from the elders by thinking that maybe that was the problem, that he had allowed people to become too comfortable. So instead of turning the hippies away the next Sunday, he met them at the entrance. And he took the time to speak with each one of them while he washed their feet and welcomed them, barefoot and all, into the church. It is the latter parables in this string of pearls that Jesus speaks that carry an emotive tag. The first are simply descriptions, reminders that there are forces at work in this world, and that though they may at times seem as though God is distant and apart from us, God is in fact at work within us and around us and in the most unsuspecting of people and places. Like Lonnie Frisbee, who at first glance looked homeless and a bit like Jesus. And he didn't wear shoes. And he smelled a little, maybe a lot. But his message was of hope and joy and love and Jesus. And the people saw that they were welcome. And so they came. Isn't that amazing? There are seeds pushing down roots, Jesus says. There is yeast raising the bread of human relationships and opportunities. Trust me, he says, it's there. But then as he gets wound up in the telling, he gives us clues about how we are to respond to this, how we are to commit ourselves to the search and the claiming. In his joy. In his joy, Jesus says about the man who finds the treasure. And this man sells everything to possess this new pearl. He sets aside everything he thought was important in order to occupy this new and exciting land. Pastor Chuck also sets aside everything he once thought was important, like suits and shoes, and acting a certain way in order to be welcome at church. And he invites everyone, to come to church regardless of how they look or dress or smell. And one Sunday he says, I took a trip to New York City not long ago and to the Statue of Liberty, and I read these words. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And as I read those words, I thought, that's Christianity, isn't it? It's the essence of it. An invitation to the broken. Jesus was very friendly to the outcasts. This place is yours. I don't care if anybody else thinks so. If you feel like you're an outcast, join us here. If you feel like you're misunderstood and judged, this is where you belong. If you feel ashamed or trapped in something you've done or are doing, you will find forgiveness and freedom right here. No guilt trips. This is your home. There is a place for you. And I'm here to tell you, each one of you, the exact same thing the Pastor Chuck said. Everyone is welcome here. There is a place for all, right here. At times, settling in is tedious and time-consuming, and at other times, it is fun, and we get caught up in the joy of making ourselves at home in a new place. Lonnie rearranged Pastor Chuck's living room furniture to make room for the band Love Song to play. And at first, Chuck was not happy at all. But he listened, and he watched, and he saw the joy in the faces of his daughter and her friends, and he also became joyous. Being open to rearranging the furniture of our lives so that there is room for joy. Joy in this place. This is what we must do, Jesus says. It is a choice. Joy or tedium. After all, who knows what else may be tucked away? Janet told her father, you opened yourself up to something you didn't understand. And I'm changed because of it. How many of us are willing to open ourselves up to something we don't understand? How many of us are willing to be changed? Because that's what Jesus strings together for us today in his teaching. Are you ready? Are you ready to go and see and be changed with me? Let's go start another Jesus revolution. Amen.